The monsoon session of Parliament that begins on Monday may or may not see some concrete work done by our legislators, but it's pretty clear what they can't do. A day after the list of unparliamentary words controversy, another feud has begun. It all started with Congress leader Jairam Ramesh tweeting out a copy of a Rajya Sabha notice saying that the Parliament precinct can't be used for demonstrations, dharna, strike, fast, or the purpose of performing any religious ceremony. This information was tweeted with the caption, "Wish Guru's latest salvo dharna mana hai." Now, this led to an uproar with more opposition leaders claiming this was a continued attack on democracy and an attempt to muzzle dissenting voices in and outside Parliament. But what really is this rule? That's what we should look at more carefully. So, Rule 16 of the Rules on Parliamentary Decorum and Etiquette states that a member is not to resort to hunger strike or any demonstration or dharna, fast or perform any religious function in the precincts of Parliament House. Now, is this rule new? No. A similar order was issued in 2011, 2013 and 2014 as well. So these are some of the orders which were issued, and clearly during UPA years as well as NDA years, you've seen similar orders come into being. The question is, are they followed? Well, obviously not. We all know that very well. Visuals of protests famously under the statue of Gandhiji in the Parliament precinct have been seen time and again. In fact, there is a long political legacy of all parties protesting here against the ruling government. Here are just a few examples. In 2010, the winter session of Parliament was a complete washout as the BJP in opposition at that time took on the then UPA government over the 2G scam. In 2012, again, there was a dharna at the main entrance when the BJP was protesting the coal scam. A jump to 2019, the opposition protested anti-CAA in that winter session. In 2020, there were protests against GST dues. In the monsoon session, banners, thalis were used in that protest. 2021, farm laws were protested with slogans and banners. Likewise, in the 2021 monsoon session, the Pegasus issue disrupted the sessions of the House as well. So we all know, we've all seen that there is a long history, political legacy of protests. The question we need to answer today is this new? Does it merit such a big ruckus if clearly no party adheres to the rules in the first place? And are the claims of an attack on parliamentary democracy valid in any way? To speak on this, I'm joined now by Shaina NC, spokesperson of the BJP. Bikashranjan Bhattacharya, MP Rajya Sabha from the CPIM, is with me today on the show. I'm also speaking with Dr. Santanu Sen, MP and spokesperson of the TMC. Welcome to all of you. Shaina, let me begin by getting your take, because this is second day in a row where the entire focus and the attack, actually the claim is that bit by bit, parliamentary democracy and the rich legacy of parliamentary democracy in India is being threatened. The session starts from Monday. Now, the MPs have a long list of words they cannot use. They now have complete restrictions on whether they can protest or not. Are opposition MPs supposed to come into the House and just nod their heads?
So, Tamanna, I want to make 3 points. One is, yes, we are a democracy. We're the largest democracy in the world, and everyone watches Indian parliamentary proceedings with a lot of interest. Obviously, there are certain words which should be used, certain words which should not. I see this hue and cry that the Congress party has been making on the circular which has been issued about dharnas. I want to ask them, who was in power in 2013 and 14? Was it not the UPA? And I'd like to show you here, there is a parliamentary bill which is part of the parliamentary bulletin part 2, which says that members cannot use precincts of the House or for any demonstration, dharna, strike, fast, or for that purpose for performing any religious ceremony. And this is signed by the Secretary General in 2013 and 14. Now, this is a standard procedure which has been observed, and it is not as if we have come up and done something which is so blasphemous.
Okay, one
if at all, we have maintained the decorum and the spirit of
Point by
Parliament.
point,
And
point by
when you
point.
have the Honourable Prime Minister
One sec,
being
Shaina,
addressed to...
point by point, point by point.
Yeah.
So it's clear.
Can
it's
I
clear
just
for our
finish my
viewers.
limited point?
No, since you're talking about the newness, I just want a response to the point of newness so that, you know, it's driven home that what the issue is today. I have the Honourable MP Bikashranjan Bhattacharya with me on the show as well. Sir, it's not new. So why all of this ruckus? Can you respond to that first, sir?
You see, we have seen, even if it is not new, but the dharnas were allowed to be held repeatedly on different occasions. Dharna is a form of peaceful protest recognized by the constitution in our country, and for which I don't have to take anybody's permission. While exercising my fundamental right of peaceful demonstration, I don't have to take permission of XYZ. Therefore, these rules, whether it was imposed earlier, before, or now, is absolutely illegal and absolutely against the basic concept of the constitutional democracy. And two, that now the issues which are coming up before the House for discussions are very, very important for the common man's life. Price rise, the fall of Indian rupees value, the law and order situation, and everything is so imminent, and the discussion would definitely come up, and there would be dharnas. Therefore, this is imposed at this time.
Let me stick to the basic question. If this happens all the time, and then anyway no one listens to it, what's the big deal right now? What I'm trying to understand is that a picture is being painted by the opposition that this parliament is trying to throttle the rights of opposition members. And that's a very serious charge, that in a democracy, if you're saying that opposition members cannot peacefully protest, they cannot say their mind, speak their mind, it's a serious charge. But on both the occasions that are being picked up, yesterday and today, it turns out that this has been going on all along, just nobody really listens to it. Can you first attest to the fact that as an MP, you have seen all of these, rules and suggestions come in earlier as well, and it's not new?
No, so far I'm concerned, for the first time I come to know that these rules are there. In spite thereof, the people had the occasion to defy the rules and go on for demonstration. If these rules are meant to be breached, then why should these rules be there? This is more fundamental. If you cannot impose the rules and if you cannot do this, which you really should not do this, why do you keep it on the book, rule book? It's better not to keep the rule book and let the people on their own impose self-restraint so far the exercise of constitutional rights are concerned. That is more sensible.
No, so Shaina, let me come to that point. If it's
Tamanna,
never
may I come
followed,
in now?
yes, if it's, no, but just let me make the point. If it's not followed, then why are those rules there? If those rules were flouted even by the BJP when they were in opposition, and I read out all of those examples, then is it being intended that it will be implemented this time round, which is before a stormy monsoon session?
So, Tamanna, I want to say the following points. One is Parliament is the temple of democracy. Yes, we want arguments, we want discussions, we want debate, we want positive suggestions, etc. This is not something that you can throw at the Bharatiya Janata Party, because there have been rules even before of what is parliamentary language and what is not. Do we want to see on our television screens as citizens just screaming, shouting, running the well and disrupting Parliament, or do we want to see constructive debate? This is a decision that every Indian has the opportunity to make and to express. If you're going to use unparliamentary language for the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister is not the Prime Minister of the Bharatiya Janata Party, he is the Prime Minister of the nation. He has been elected by one and all. Should there not be examples set when it comes to decorum, discipline, and what is civil and what is not? And it's not as if this has happened now. I just cited, I'm amazed to know that people don't even know that in 2013 and 14 there was a circular which was issued, which has been tweeted by a lot of our leaders. Whether you look at Mr. Amit Malviya's
We've put it out. It's on our screen.
It clearly shows you with proof that this has been a precedent.
Yes.
I want to make one other point. That, by saying character assassination and casting aspersions in Parliament, to say, "Arey, aap jhoote ho," is a personal attack. It's different to say that we believe that this point is not factual. And we can raise
No, but then
the bar.
Shaina, why don't you
raise
then
the bar?
but then Shaina,
This
why
is
don't
not
you
about a
issue
personal attack
standard
as
lines that people can
representatives in
speak?
Parliament.
Shaina, these are not
If you're
school
going to spend
children.
all your time-
1 minute, Shaina, 1 minute. These are not school children that you have to give them 5 lines and they can choose among those. These are parliamentarians, they're elected members. They represent constituents. If they want to speak a language, they should be able to. If they want to say a government is incompetent, you're saying they can't say a government is incompetent. They should say, please, sir, kindly, sir, please be more competent. They have a right, Shaina.
No. Everyone has a right to say what they choose to in a constructive way, and why not raise the bar? Do you want to see only disruption? Do you want to see people only going into the well? Do you want to see abuses, or do you want to be as the largest democracy in the world? What we're heading towards. We're heading towards a parliamentary democracy in central vista with maximum parliamentarians. These guidelines set into act immediately, which obviously have been there in the past too. If you feel there's something wrong, you can always address your grievance to the speaker. But I think we must think and speak, and not speak.
I want to
and
read
then
out
think.
for you.
That
I want to read
being my
out for
limited
you
point.
on
And
the
you
point
talked about each
on the point
parliamentarian.
of protest. On the point of protest, I want to read out for you what the late Sushma Swaraj, one of our great parliamentarians and known for her speeches in Parliament, what she said in 2012. She said, I quote, "I would like to remind the Prime Minister," and that time, of course, she was in the opposition, "that when he was the leader of opposition in Rajya Sabha, they had stalled Parliament over the Tehelka issue. Even over the coffin scam, they stalled Parliament and called us coffin thieves. Not allowing Parliament to function is also a form of democracy like any other form." That is what she had said at that time when the then Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh, said that Parliament's time is being wasted. So it's an eternal story. It's an eternal story where the opposition wants to come out and protest. Which is why, again, I ask you, Mr. Bikashranjan, that is there protest right now and these aspersions that democracy is being stalled really for nothing? Because in all of these years, when the BJP was also protesting, these rules were present. Even today, these rules were present. As of 2021, when opposition has protested, walked out, etc., these rules were present. No one's going to be penalized for them. It's a recommendation, it's a request.
My point is very simple. If the rules are not implementable, if you cannot implement the rules, then please don't keep it in the rule book. You are making yourself a laughing stock. You are making the whole system of affairs that I have these rules, but the rules cannot be implemented. The people have right to protest. They will go for dharna, and you will say, no, there are rules, you don't go for dharna. Why should there be such a rule? Whether this is done by this government or the earlier government, that's not an issue. Issue is more fundamental. Don't keep such rules which will ultimately be used for the purpose of preventing the parliamentarians to exercise their right of speech, right of protest.
How is
Therefore,
it a prevention?
These rules should go out of the
How
rule.
is it a prevention? Let me bring in Dr. Santanu Sen. He's MP and spokesperson of the TMC, also a member of Parliament. Dr. Santanu Sen, okay, there you are. We're trying to get a steady frame on you, sir, so that we can hear and see what you're saying clearly this evening on this very important debate. The question over here is that if these rules are not new, they have been put into place in the past. It's a matter of routine that these guidelines are issued. What's the big ruckus about over the last couple of days?
Madam, let me remind you, in 1970, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who later on said, Narendra Modi ji ki tum Raj Dharm palan karo, he went inside the parliament with a bullock cart in order to protest against the price hike of petrol and diesel. The issue is this is not the first time. As they are having thumping majority inside the parliament, they are bulldozing each and every bill. In last monsoon session, I was suspended for a democratic protest against Pegasus spyware. In last monsoon session, they bulldozed 29 bills. Nowadays, hardly 13% of the total bills passed get scrutinized. There are more number of ordinances being practiced by this present BJP government. And you know, there was a ban on Parliament, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha TV so that the opposition's voice cannot be heard by the common people at large. across the country. Now, as they know it very well, in the coming monsoon session, the oppositions are going to burst because of several rational issues. The entire country is burning inside and outside. So that those very adjectives which are very much appropriate for Narendra Modi ji, they have categorically put a ban on those particular words. And can you believe, जो democracy का पीठस्थान है, the temple and mosque and church of democracy, where each and every elected parliamentarian is having his or her right to protest logically, legally, rationally, legitimately, and they are being banned and they are being asked that you cannot do any protest inside the parliamentary territory. It is absolutely bulldozing. It's absolutely misuse of power, and the country is not going to. You have to pay for it.
So the context, Shaina, Dr. Santanu Sen is putting it in context, like the unparliamentary words, and it was explained in that circular, are there because of the context in which they use. So Dr. Sen is saying that the opposition's problems or their concerns is about the context. This is a government with a brute majority. This is a government which has passed the maximum number of money bills that goes in for ordinances, where they claim there's not enough scrutiny of key bills. You're starting a monsoon session where issues like mehengai, rupee at 80, so many other issues, crude, all of this is going to be something that opposition members want to discuss. And before that, all of these rules come out. It's the context which is the problem. Right now, this seems like an attempt to muzzle their voices. What's your response?
Welcome to discuss, welcome to debate, but clearly not welcome to just disrupt. The opposition has been doing nothing but disrupting, and here I think the Congress has failed so miserably that they have no issue to highlight, that they have only picking on trivia. What is the trivia? That what is the Ashok Stamb on Central Vista on the roof? Is the lion in the correct direction or not? Then they have other issues when it comes to parliamentary language, which has been a precedent even in previous dispensations. And I showed you the circular which went out in 2013-14, which actually said that you cannot demonstrate in Parliament. Now the question of words that we've been seeing the kind of language used for the Prime Minister. People have even, parliamentarians who have called him a COVID spreader, a Khalistani, all kinds of words which are Vinash Purush, all kinds of words for the Honorable Prime Minister. Now this is undoing, because this is wrong when it comes to decorum, when it comes to discipline, when it comes to the constitutionality of the Honorable Prime Minister if he's in the House.
But these words are for everyone.
Is a highlight which
No, but Shaina, one minute. Dr. Santanu Sen wants to ask you. No, but these words, you keep talking about the context of what is said about the Prime Minister. No, one sec. Shaina, these rules apply to all parliamentarians, including the Prime Minister. It's not specific to the Prime Minister. No one can say these words. No one should be able to say these words, including him.
Absolutely. But
so why are you making it about the Prime Minister?
All I'm making
out of bag.
Point is that if we are the most vibrant democracy world over and everyone is looking at us, let's raise the bar.
Okay, Dr. Shantanu Sen, let's raise the bar. What is the problem, Dr. Shantanu Sen, what is the problem if you have a debate and don't...
One minute. Which are best known for their own inadequacy.
There are no, I've seen that list, there's no bad words in it. All of them are very regular words. It's about the context, right? Dr. Shantanu Sen, what is the problem if we raise the bar? If we use better language? What is the problem if we protest peacefully and don't create a ruckus and allow our words to speak, have a debate in Parliament? Don't the people of this country deserve it?
Who is having the authority? Who is going to decide what particular and decent word is? Who is going to decide? Let me just answer my question. Let me remind you, our learned Prime Minister said that the opposition are blind only 2 months back.
Even before?
This is the basic criteria of BJP. They don't allow the opposition to speak in the parliament and not even in the debate.
Sir, she is allowing you to speak. She's just said one word. She's been allowed to be listening to you. Yes, please continue your point. But her point is that there is a set method to how these words. There's a set method to how these words are decided. You know that, sir.
I was absolutely a silent listener when she was speaking,
Yes,
right?
please continue.
So
Finish your point.
she should reciprocate in the
She will
same
listen.
way.
Yes.
The problem is present BJP government will not allow you to say a spade a spade. If you say the truth, it is unparliamentary. What the truth is? The truth is present BJP government and its Prime Minister, he lies common people, he betrays the common people, he passes crocodile tears, he does jumlabaji, he spreads COVID, and so and so more. All these are really the true things. These are the realities. And if you see this, if you speak out these realities in the parliament, you are unparliamentary. On the contrary, if you say he is not a Vinas Purush, he is a Vikas Purush, he is a good man, he is not an ugly person, he is not
No,
doing
but why are you
jumlabaji, he is
talking about
telling the
ugly
truth.
and all of that?
All
Dr.
these are
Sen,
lies
1
and
minute.
then
1 minute.
become
Shantanu
parliamentary.
Sen, 1 minute.
Why
1
are
minute.
you getting so personal,
Yeah, 1
sir?
minute, 1 minute. First of all,
Why are you getting so personal?
yeah, that is really unrequired, Dr. Shantanu Sen. I'm not putting any ban on words over here, but why you talking about personal things, number one. Number two, like I mentioned to Shaina as well.
No, I'm
this
not
list,
taking about personal
one
thing.
minute.
I'm not talking about
Like I
any
mentioned to
personal thing.
Shaina as well, there is a set process by which these words are compiled. There is a committee which sits on it, and they are the ones who compile the words. The way they pick it up is because the way they pick it up is because the way they pick it up is because of precedents and orders by the presiding officer of the House, which is the same as always.
Was there any all-party meeting? Was there any all-party meeting to come to a conclusion?
Yes, Bikashranjan, please come in. Yes, Bikashranjan.
Now, Shaina ji has made the point very clear. According to her, the words are really prescribed to protect the Prime Minister. This is not to be used by all parliamentarians against each other, but only Prime Minister. Why should we target the Prime Minister? That's the contention. The Prime Minister has to be targeted. He is the leader. He is the leader of the country. And number one, when the Prime Minister takes the pleasure of saying at the House of Parliament, Andalan GB, the Kisans who were agitating on the road for their livings, those words are not now really said out of the context. It is not said that you cannot use the word Andalan GB. We are talking of raising the bar. The bar should be raised from the Treasury bench. The Prime Minister in the House should speak in such a manner that will invite the opposition to speak in the same line. Unfortunately, we have seen or observed that the deliberations by the Treasury bench and the Honorable Prime Minister really incites the people to say something which is not desirable. Though I have seen the members from the opposition have never used such words which is really attacking personally.
Okay, 1 minute.
Or which hits
Shaina, on the question of choice of words, on the question of choice of words, I think what has raised hackles is that specific words seem to be the ones that the opposition uses to attack your government. And only those words are there. Meanwhile, the words that the government uses to attack the opposition are missing from that list, which is why they are claiming that this is aimed specifically at them. And you're talking about how they speak about the Prime Minister. The rules don't talk about any member of Parliament, including the Prime Minister. It's a general rule for everyone.
I gave an example. Absolutely, Tamanna, I gave an example of the Honorable Prime Minister because we need to respect that post too. You cannot be having this personal attack which is individualistic in nature, because there is something where you have a constitutional provision of the Honorable Prime Minister and the office of the Prime Minister in a democracy that must be respected. That was my limited point.
The context here is different,
individual
Shaina.
parliamentarians who
We're talking about what parliamentarians can say or not.
To the well or disrupt Parliament. Absolutely, absolutely. I gave you an example, Tamanna. It's not as if to suggest that in the past there have not been guidelines, or in the past there has not been a parliamentary decorum.
Shantanu Sen wants to come in very quickly.
That rule book has been there then too.
Yes, Mr. Sen.
My point is that when you make this into a frivolous debate, it shows you that you have no serious points to talk about.
Do you have no serious points to talk about, Shantanu Sen? Because if these rules, 1 minute, let me complete the question. Let me complete the question, sir, please. The contention is that the opposition has nothing serious to talk about. The unparliamentary words list has been there always, no one listens to it. The Dharna rule has always been there, no one listens to it. So what's the big deal? Why is the opposition now raising this just before the monsoon session? Is it because there's a lack of issues? That's the allegation. What's your response?
The entire country is burning and there are so many issues which BJP is scared of. Let me remind you what was my fault. I was following the path shown by late Sushma Swaraj ji and Arun Jaitley ji and protesting democratically against Pegasus spyware during last monsoon session. And I was suspended for the entire session in an unparliamentary way. This is how the parliament is functioning. This is how the parliament is running. They have absolutely ruined each and every institution. And they have spoiled the basic essence of parliamentary democracy.
Dr. Sen, are you telling me that in this session you're not going to protest and you're going to watch what you're saying and stick to that list of unparliamentary words? You're not, right?
Certainly not. They cannot throttle the voice of the opposition.
So then there is no penalty. There is no penalty. These are guidelines. These are recommendations.
Yeah, we are ready to face the consequences. We are not going to get scared of this.
Okay.
We are not going to remain mum.
You know,
they cannot throttle the opposition like this.
Bikashranjan, so they're saying that your voice is not being throttled, Baba. These rules are always there. They are guidelines and they've not been listened to in the past, including by the BJP. It's unlikely that the opposition is. What's all the ruckus about, Bikashranjan?
I would again repeat what I have said. If the rules are not to be followed according to the... Why make them unnecessarily and burden the people with these all words which make the other people really scared about using these words? Even you are telling not truth is also now objected to. You are a corrupt person following the corrupt method is objected to. You are shedding crocodile tears. You do not care of the poor people of the country. Then this also objected to. This has been now brought out only to protect the Honorable Prime Minister from the attack of the opposition politically. Those words which are used are all political, sensitive words, and not slangs.
Okay, so we will have to wait and see. Well, we will have to wait and see. And you know, we talked about penalty. There is no penalty. That we should clarify. There is no penalty per se.
No question of penalty.
There is
Nobody
no penalty.
can impose penalty.
No one can impose a penalty.
But
these are recommendations, guidelines. The actual penalty actually that parliamentarians should think about is what the people of this nation, their constituents and potential voters are seeing when they conduct themselves on the floor of the House. At the end of the day, we want to see how much work is actually done and do very important laws receive the scrutiny they deserve. That's really the true story. With that, I want to thank all of you for joining us on The Big Story this evening.